Hello my loves and welcome to a new video. If you don't know me, my name is Vanessa and I moved from Germany to northern Sweden almost 2 years ago. I am a highly sensitive person and I know that many of you are too from my comment section. So I thought it would be really awesome to explore how this life in northern Sweden is so different and is like a sensory heaven for me as a highly sensitive person, and how it changed my life in the perspective of sensory overload and overstimulation. So I welcome you to this video and I'm so happy you are here. Have a seat with me here at my beautiful little property at the northern parts of Sweden, and let's explore this topic together. Life as an HSP is a challenge. As a highly sensitive person, everything surrounding you is taken in more intensely. Our brains work differently as they are not able to filter sensory input, but instead process every information it gets at the same time. It is as if the brain of a, let's say, normal sensitive person has a proper, quite dense filter, and the more sensitive you are, the bigger holes your filter has. Well, and I guess my filter contains mostly holes or is almost non-existent. Some HSP are more sensitive to light, others to smell or sound, and some poor souls who take in everything, including the energies of others, well, welcome to the club of constant overstimulation. We sense more. The energies here are amazing. I just love this place. We feel deeper. And I really don't know how to handle this. And I am really happy and I am really overwhelmed and I am really lost. We are tired faster. We are extreme empaths. We need a lot of solitude and rest to recharge. As you can imagine, life in our modern, wealth-driven and work-overload society with a condition like that is quite challenging. For me personally, life was almost impossible to handle when I still lived in Germany. It took me years to start listening to myself and to my needs and not to others anymore, and therefore to start creating a life that is actually good for me and that feels good for me, to create a life where I could find true rest. And for that I eventually needed to leave Germany. Germany is a dense, overpopulated country. You can find about 230 people per square kilometer. Depending on the region, it can be more or less, but in general, people are everywhere. In Jämtland, where I live now, you find 2.5 people per square kilometer, just for a quick comparison. So when I lived in Germany and was seeking solitude in forests, at lakes or in the fields, I'd still hear the traffic from somewhere or a plane. I'd sense that there are other people around, hearing them, or knowing they just passed this place before me because I saw them. I was never truly alone, and I could never find rest on a deep sensory level. It is simply not possible, or wasn't for me, at least. Then I visited a friend and traveled through Alaska in 2012. And I felt peace for the first time in my life. That brought me to the idea that I should explore Nordic countries in Europe to find out whether I might find peace there, whether they might hold a future life of stillness and calm for me. The first time I visited Sweden was in 2021, and I will never forget this intense feeling of calmness and finally resting. It was immediately clear to me that Sweden can offer even more peace and quiet than Alaska ever could. Because there are no maniacs carrying guns around all the time, or these insane outcasts having to prove how tough they are to everyone all the time. The vastness of this land, the soft hills, the calming light, the overall stillness immediately catched and calmed me, and I didn't want to leave at all. So over the next few years we planned our big move north, and then it was finally time and we started our new life in Jämtland. We left most of our belongings, our friends and our families behind. We landed in an apartment owned by Germans and eventually found our very own dream home in the countryside. And here we are, finally home, finally at a place where I can find true rest. And I would love to share my favorite aspects of life up here that I love the most from a perspective of a highly sensitive person. Because, I hope you can feel it through your screen. Let's start with the people who live here. I can only speak from my experience here in the Jämtland, so people in other parts of the country might be a little bit different. For me personally, the way you make contact up here, the way you are treated as a person up here is simply perfect. HSP are usually really good listeners because we know exactly how it feels when people are not paying attention. We care deeply, so we listen. What comes with that is that people start feeling too comfortable around us and start sharing about everything and anything, and in Germany that mostly meant complaining. To me, it usually felt as if people would vomit into my energy just to get their poison out of their system, and I didn't have a proper chance to protect myself. It cost me so much energy. It was horrible. People are not that personal in Jämtland. Though I value and need deep relationships in which people can be vulnerable with me and I with them, I don't want to talk about negative shit the whole day. And I don't want to be talked to in every situation and whenever someone sees me outside. Just me being outside my house doesn't mean me and my energy are available for others. I said it before and I say it again. Complaining is the national sport of Germany, and it is killing every will to live in the body of a highly sensitive person, because protecting yourself from that, distancing yourself from that amount of negativity all the time is extremely exhausting. So yes, making friends here is a little harder because people are not as personal, not as inviting, not as outgoing or direct as I am used to from Germans. But we still made a good bunch of friends now, even though most of them are not of Swedish origin. But how does that matter? I personally don't care where you come from. When you are a friendly person, we might be friends. If you are not, we won't. It is quite easy, actually. So let's get to the next topic, quite connected to this one. All I can say is gas stations. It is so awesome. Sweden is on the way to perfectionize no contact services, and gas stations are a great example. In Germany, you always have to pay for gas indoors while talking to the cashier. When I would feel drained or anxious that day, doing that cost me a whole lot of nerves. Here, things are different. You simply pay directly at the gas station, you don't have to talk to anyone. This seems like nothing special to many people, but for HSP with high risk of anxiety attacks, this is heaven. And it's the same with grocery shopping. In some places, you can go to self-checkout, but even on the cashier, they don't talk much. They don't force you into conversation, and you can take your time packing your groceries because of this amazing double system they have. You might know these memes from Germany or these short videos where the cashier is basically just throwing stuff at you, looking annoyed, and you have to pack everything as fast as possible because the next person behind you can't get their stuff cashed out before you are done packing your stuff. It is pure panic. I hated that so much. And talking about taking it slow, the activities up here are pure gold. Again, I can only speak for myself and my experience in Germany. I lived in Saxony and for about 5 years in Berlin and the suburbs of that town. Life in Germany is often filled with consumption, noise, going into cafes or bars, going to cinemas, markets, shopping centers, crowded museums, etc. Everything is crowded. Everything is loud. Everything feels overstimulating. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed this life for a while. It's amazing to have this wild life for a while. As much as I wanted to experience those festivals and go to concerts and party and eat out, I also wanted to have true peace. True peace means something else to everyone. And to me, this means no people inside, nothing to hear within the surrounding 10 kilometers. When I search for peace, I search for sensory stillness. Nothing but nature surrounding me. No airplanes above my head, no cars to hear, no footsteps before mine. Trees, animals, water, the stars, the sun, nothing man-made, no man-made noises. This is where I calm down, where my nervous system leaves survival and anxiety mode and is able to truly let me breathe deeply. I know that places like these allegedly exist in Germany. I have never been there, and I was so tired of searching, because here I am surrounded. I don't have to search. I walk like 5 or 10 minutes and I am at such a spot. That this peace can be found so easily here is simply because of the vastness, the sheer space of this land. As I mentioned before, the population, especially here in the north, is very, very thin, with only 2.5 people per square kilometer, and still most of those living in cities like Östersund or Strömsund. It is easy to find spots in nature where no one is around. But also the cities offer more space than in other European towns, for the exact same reason: less people. At the same time, people are much more respectful, offer more space, and don't squish themselves between people or something. They are simply not rude. Oh, I loved those COVID times when there were actually rules that forced people to keep their distance to you at the cashier. For the first time in my life, there was no one pressing their front in my back, standing behind me because they were so pushy, finally getting their stuffed cash out. Suddenly there was space between people. I love that so much. No matter where you are here, if you want your peace, your space, you will have it. On top of it, if there are people, for example on the same hike as you are, they radiate an energy of, oh nice, we are enjoying this together. which makes me feel super invited and lets me enjoy this experience even though there are other people now. There simply is no competition for that space, no entitlement that this trail is now yours, or this lingering annoyance like, oh, now there are other people, which is kind of the default energy of Germany. Overall, Germany was overstimulating me basically all the time in every possible way. But now let's talk about the conclusion of that video. I am not here to praise northern Sweden as heaven on earth. Besides all those beautiful aspects of life here that are absolutely true to me, there are also tons of challenges and problems one has to face that some might don't want to face. For some, it might be those super long, really cold and dark winters. For others, like me, it's more challenging to face these very long, light-loaded summers because I have struggles to handle a lot of light. And finally, of course, the job market, which is pure horror. And I would like to clarify that I did not run away from Germany. I really tried to face it there. I tried to work a normal job. I tried to find that peace, to create that peace for myself. And I finally saw I couldn't do it. And at the same time, I saw this beautiful opportunity to build a life that is so nourishing, so good for me, just 2,000 kilometers away, doable by car, completely. So I did not run away, I walked towards. And this is very important and a huge difference in mindset and attitude. Being HSP, having my past, and being on that healing journey I am on now, I decided to live this life very consciously. I knew about the endless hours of snow shoveling. I knew about the darkness. I knew about the distances, the loneliness, the cold, the summers, the mosquitoes.
Awesome.
And I chose this life with all my heart, because I knew it came with breathtaking nature, endless space, time for myself, calm, silence, serenity. For me personally, success means having a calm nervous system. Given that I am at most parts of my life a very successful person. Because I chose this path. And if you are watching this right now from a place that feels too loud, too much, then please know that there is nothing wrong with you. I encourage you to do something for yourself, to create a life for yourself that is good and nourishing for you, your soul, and your perfectly imperfect body. Because we only have this one life, and HSP or not, it is meant to be lived. And now I thank you so much for watching and for spending that time with me here. And I hope you find and click that subscribe button so we can see each other again and you can follow my journey here in the north and see how life continues to unfold for me up here. Thank you so much for being here. See you soon. Bye.